You've read the books, you've taken the quizzes, you've journaled, you've meditated. You've stared at the ceiling at 2 a.m., asking yourself the same question over and over. What am I supposed to do with my life? And the answer never comes. Not because you're lazy, not because you're broken, but because your brain was never designed to find a purpose. It was designed to build one. And the way most people search is neurologically guaranteed to fail. There's a network in your brain called the default mode network. It activates when you're not focused on anything specific, when you're daydreaming, overthinking, lying in bed, replaying your life. Neuroscientists call it the brain's resting state. But here's the dark truth. It's anything but restful. The default mode network is where your brain runs identity simulations. Who am I? Where am I going? What does everyone think of me? Sounds productive. It's not. A 2009 study at Harvard by Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert found that people spend 47% of their waking hours in this default mode. And the more time they spent there, the more unhappy they reported being. 47% of your conscious life spent in a loop, going nowhere. Here's why this destroys your ability to find purpose. The default mode network doesn't solve problems. It rumbles through them. It simulates futures without testing them. It compares your life to other people's highlight reels. It generates anxiety, disguised as deep thinking. So when you sit down and ask, "What is my purpose?" your default mode network activates. And instead of giving you an answer, it gives you a highlight reel of everything you're not doing. You don't get clarity, you get comparison. You don't get direction, you get paralysis. Your brain's GPS isn't broken. It's just running a map with no destination entered. And when you drive without a destination, every road looks wrong. But the default mode trap is only half the problem. There's a second mechanism actively blocking your purpose, and it's one you've been told is a strength. In the year 2000, psychologist Barry Schwartz coined a term that predicted the modern crisis: the paradox of choice. His research showed that when people are given more options, they don't feel more free. They feel more paralyzed. But neuroscience reveals why. Every time your brain is presented with a choice, the prefrontal cortex runs an energy-expensive cost-benefit analysis. The more options, the more energy spent. The more energy spent, the more depleted your decision-making becomes. This is called decision fatigue. And it doesn't just affect what you eat for lunch. It affects the biggest decision of your life: what to commit to. Previous generations didn't have this problem. Your grandfather didn't wake up asking, "What's my purpose?" He was a farmer because his father was a farmer. The path was chosen before he was born. You have 1,000 paths, and your brain treats every unchosen path as a loss. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio's somatic marker hypothesis shows that the brain tags decisions with emotional weight. When you commit to one purpose, your brain doesn't just feel excitement about what you've gained. It feels grief about everything you've abandoned. Every time you say, "This is my path," your amygdala whispers, "But what about all the other paths?" That whisper, that's not wisdom. That's neurological loss aversion. You're not lost because you have no options. You're lost because you have too many. And your brain would rather keep all doors open than walk through one and feel the pain of closing the others. So your default mode network traps you in simulation, and too many choices drain your ability to commit. But the final mechanism is the most devastating because it disguises destruction as inspiration. Follow your passion. It's the most repeated advice in history. And according to neuroscience, it's the most dangerous. Here's why. Passion is a dopamine event. It's the brain's reward system lighting up when something feels new, exciting, and novel. The ventral tegmental area fires. Dopamine floods the nucleus accumbens. You feel alive. But dopamine has a design flaw. It's a novelty tracker, not a commitment tracker. The same neurochemical that makes you passionate about something on Monday makes you bored with it by Thursday. Not because the thing changed, because the novelty wore off. And when novelty wears off, dopamine drops. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck's research shows that people who believe passion is something you find are significantly more likely to abandon interests when they hit difficulty. Because difficulty doesn't feel passionate. It feels like a signal that you chose wrong. But people who believe passion is something you develop, they push through the dopamine dip. They reach the stage where competence builds, where mastery creates its own fuel. That fuel has a different name in neuroscience. It's not dopamine, it's serotonin. The quiet satisfaction of getting better. The slow, deep reward of being genuinely good at something meaningful. Serotonin doesn't spike and crash. It builds, like compound interest in the brain. Dopamine says, chase the next thing. Serotonin says, stay, get better. This is becoming yours. Every time someone quits their purpose because the passion died, they didn't lose their calling. They confused a dopamine crash for a dead end. So the next time someone asks, have you found your purpose yet? Understand what your brain is actually facing. A default mode network that loops instead of solving. An ocean of options that paralyzes instead of liberating. And a dopamine system that sabotages commitment, disguised as inspiration. 3 mechanisms, all designed for survival in a world that no longer exists. Your brain is not failing you. It's running ancient software in a modern world it was never programmed for. So stop searching. Pick something that matters, even slightly. Do it long enough for the dopamine to die. And watch what grows in its place. Because purpose was never something you find. It's something that forms in the space where you refuse to quit. Same brain, different instruction. Stop searching, start building. The purpose was never hiding. You were just looking with the wrong system. If this rewired how you think about purpose, subscribe. Because every week, we decode the neuroscience behind the thoughts that keep you stuck.